Vaugh awoke to the sounds of panicked whispers drifting through the window of his small countryside home in France. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting long, eerie shadows across the village. Curious and uneasy, Vaugh slipped out of bed, pulling on his coat as he crept outside. The crowd was gathered in a tight circle near the edge of the village. Vaugh's heart thudded in his chest as he pushed his way through, the voices growing louder and more frantic. When he reached the front, his breath caught in his throat. There, sprawled on the cold ground, was a man's body, twisted and contorted in the most unnatural way. His limbs were bent backward, bones jutting out at odd angles as if they'd been snapped like twigs. One of his eyes was missing, leaving an empty, gaping socket that seemed to stare into Vaugh's soul. He let out a scream, the horror overwhelming him, and stumbled back into his mother's arms. "Vaugh! Inside now!" she commanded, pulling him away from the ghastly scene. Back in the safety of their home, Vaugh collapsed into sobs, his small body shaking with fear. "Mom, what happened? Why did he look like that?" he begged between sobs, his voice trembling. His mother's face was pale, her eyes dark with worry. She hesitated, then spoke in a voice barely above a whisper. "There's something you need to know, Vaugh. Our village, it's cursed." She explained the old legend that had been whispered among the villagers for generations. It was said that a spirit, dark and vengeful, was bound to a solitary tree at the village's border. If the tree were ever cut down, the spirit would be unleashed, free to wreak havoc. Every week, a new body would be found, mangled and distorted, appearing at random in someone's home. The tree had been cut down for a new road, and now the curse had begun to claim its victims. Vaugh's heart sank as his mother continued. "Your father, before he died, tried to stop the spirit by binding it to the tree. He failed." The memory of his father, a priest who had died when Vaugh was just a child, flooded his mind. He had always been a distant, haunting presence in Vaugh's life. Now the horror that had taken his father was alive again. That night, Vaugh couldn't sleep. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. The image of the broken body burned into his mind. The house was silent, but the weight of the curse pressed down on him, suffocating him. Unable to bear it any longer, Vaugh crept into the basement, searching for something, anything that could help. There, covered in dust, he found his father's old diary. Flipping through the worn pages, Vaugh's eyes widened as he read about the ceremony his father had discovered, the one that could bind the spirit to an object again. But there was a catch. It required the help of the first person the spirit had killed. Desperate, Vaugh decided to perform the ceremony. If he could summon the spirit of the man who had died outside his house, perhaps he could end the curse before it claimed more lives. He gathered the necessary items, his hands shaking as he lit the candles and began the ritual. The room grew cold, the air thick with tension as Vaugh chanted the ancient words. Slowly, the spirit materialized before him, a twisted, tormented figure with hollow eyes. "Help me," Vaugh pleaded. "You have to help me bind the spirit." But the spirit didn't respond as Vaugh had hoped. Its hollow eyes locked onto Vaugh, and it lunged, its ethereal form seething with anger and betrayal. It had been wronged in life and was now consumed with vengeance. Vaugh stumbled back, his heart pounding in his chest as the spirit drew closer, its icy fingers reaching for his throat. Just as the spirit was about to strike, Vaugh's mother burst into the room. Without hesitation, she plunged a knife into the spirit's chest. It let out a horrifying shriek, then vanished, leaving Vaugh gasping for breath. "Mom, how?" Vaugh stammered, his mind reeling from what had just happened. His mother knelt beside him, tears in her eyes. "Vaugh, the man you saw today, he wasn't the first victim. I was." The realization hit Vaugh like a sledgehammer. His mother had been the first to die, and yet here she was, alive. Or was she? A deep, unsettling dread settled in his gut as he looked at her, a woman he thought he knew. The spirit was defeated, but the price was far too high. Vaugh had won, but the victory felt hollow, a dark cloud hanging over him. His mother's secret would haunt him forever, a reminder that even the dead can't always be trusted.